on ESPN 1320.
He's James. I'm Kyle. Doing a little bit of a Kings roster reset here as we start to turn the page toward the offseason and look at how the Kings might fix this roster to get back to the postseason. If they're going to fix the roster at all, maybe they blow the whole thing up. Maybe this is foolish, looking at veterans and stuff they might add and trade for. They might just blow the whole thing to smithereens and rebuild instead. I doubt that very seriously, but it's one of the avenues, I guess.
I think all options are on the table.
Yeah, they have
to. You have to. Yeah. It's tough. I really like Trey Lyles, and Trey Lyles is the other big unrestricted free agent the Kings have. They also have a whole bunch of other like Doug McDermott and Jay Crowder and Markelle Fultz. I don't know if any of those guys will be back, but I certainly think that Trey Lyles is a player who's been with the team a couple of years now, and you're at least going to have the possibility of him returning. Mm-hmm. I think he's been, 3.5 years he's been with the Kings. He's part of being team one. He came over in the trades, the Marvin Bagley trade at the same time as that the Kings went out and got Sabonis. I think he's a very, very good small ball 5 and a really solid 4. But also the injuries have plagued him the last couple of years, and it's usually like calf injuries, and calf injuries usually keep popping back up and then become something much worse.
Yeah.
And I would be a little leery on Trey's just basic health.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
The Trey Lyles thing in general for me, I always felt like, and I don't take this as I like Trey Lyles. I think he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like he was not miscast, but probably like 2 spots higher in the rotation than he would ideally be.
Yeah, I mean, there was one season where Trey Lyles was just so good.
Yeah,
that as like a guy coming off the bench that
mm-hmm.
you couldn't not play him. I mean, he just does so much of the little work.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. But this year, it was like, oh, Trey Lyles isn't playing well. What are the Kings going to do?
Oh yeah, no, they're toast.
And that just can't. That to me, he can't be that vital to your team. But if he's like, it wouldn't shock me at all. As that we've talked about the Cavs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And my guy in Cleveland said they need more like size in the front court. They need more depth. Not necessarily size, because they have Evan Mobley and freaking Jared Allen, but they need more depth in the front court. It wouldn't shock me at all if Trey Lyles finds his way to Cleveland and just is awesome in a really niche role for Cleveland.
No, I totally agree.
Where he's way down the rotation, but is overqualified for his spot in the rotation.
I would agree, and there's value in, again, if you're going to load up your roster with a bunch of string beans, right? The super thin guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what they've done with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. You need somebody who's a big guy who can sit there and take the abuse of a Sabonis, or is he undersized to defend Sabonis or Valanciunas or Jokic or yeah. But that doesn't mean that he can't go out there and give you 6 fouls.
Yeah.
They don't have that type of like solid dude. And I think his role that you're talking about is more like the Kenrich Williams role.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he's like the 10th guy on maybe the 11th guy. That works. But when you pay a guy, you give him a 2-year, $16 million deal because he was really good in the first year of the Beam team. It made sense too. And now like they're like, for honestly, I don't think Trey is getting anything more than either a league minimum deal or like a 2-year $6 million, 2-year $7 million deal, like around what Alex Len kept getting as like a league minimum player.
So a friend of the program and our favorite Canadian, Brett Huff, asks who signs for more AAV, average annual value, Trey Lyles or Jake LaRavia. Sounds like you think LaRavia is going to get more on an annual basis than Lyles.
No, I still think that I think it's very possible that they're around the same dollar figure. And again, if I'm choosing between, if you're the Kings, I think this is the rub, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Kings, I don't think you can bring them both back because you need more length and athleticism. And you can have
Yeah.
a Trey Lyles on your roster, but the other thing is they brought in Valanciunas.
Right.
And, if you're going to move Valanciunas this summer, which is, again, that's totally possible.
Mhm.
Valanciunas on a $10.4 million
A
contract,
lot of teams would take that.
and he has a non-guaranteed third year on the deal. And so
Man.
I think there will be teams that are like, okay, we really, really could use that type of center. You look at even like the Los Angeles Lakers.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if there's a $10 million player on the Lakers that you kind of look at, or a $12 or $13 million player or $7 million player that you'd swap them for. But at the same time, the Kings need something different at that position. We saw that like Valanciunas played some very valuable minutes, but you also saw there were moments where he got played off the court
Mhm.
because you didn't have a guy who was a natural like rim runner.
Mhm.
You played Dallas, and was it Kai Jones tore you up? Because
Kai Jones kind of had some moments.
Okay. Well, again,
but yeah, Kai Jones should not be cooking against your team.
Well, no, but I think like go get Kai Jones. Like there are players like that that are way cheaper. Kai Jones is going to sign a league minimum deal.
Yeah,
and sure, he's got some weird quirks to him, and he's been
interesting cat
out of the league because of that. But he came into the league with the Charlotte Hornets, and anyone who does that, I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway because I think they're one of the most poorly run organizations there ever was.
That's fair.
So I would like to see what someone like that looks like instead of a guy like Trey Lyles. And that's, again, it's not to disparage Trey Lyles, but again, if I have a choice between Trey Lyles and Chris Boucher, I'm taking Chris Boucher. Like, because I need a shot blocker.
Yeah.
I need length. I need somebody who can hit a three like Trey, but also do other things. And I think if you line up the Kings and you look at, Valanciunas and Sabonis and Trey Lyles next to each other, and they're all these big, bulky dudes, you need some of the other guys. You need the other types. You need somebody who can be a rim runner or a pick and roll specialist with Malik Monk that can finish above the rim. And the fact that if you sign Trey Lyles back, you're not going to have that type of player. You don't have a roster space for that type of player.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes like, okay, you got to manage this thing. And I don't think Trey will have the same pull with the new front office, as he did with the former one. And so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
And there's just like, look, man, this might be a bigger picture thing than, and this isn't as specific to Trey Lyles. You can only keep so many pieces of a roster that was going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Trey Lyles, yeah, we love Trey Lyles, but man, you just laid out all the reasons you need something different there. Like that's the reality of the situation. And that's why we bring up DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Keegan Murray. Like, that's why it's like, man, everything kind of has to be on the table here with players that may or may not be part of the core moving forward. Certainly. And so Trey Lyles is definitely not a player that you're like, I need him back.
Yeah.
He's probably gone. Well, and ideally you're finding a different, better player to fill the role that he filled.
Yeah, and I think even this point by Aaron Mick here in the chat, what's the difference between Kai Jones and Isaac Jones? Like, I think
name, first of all.
Yeah. I think you have to see what Isaac Jones is. Like, and if you have a Trey Lyles, I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
I think it's worth noting that Isaac Jones, as you pointed out during the season, was persona non grata after Mike Brown got let go.
Yeah. And like Doug Christie did not rely on him at all. And then there was a point where it's like, oh, let's throw him out there and see what we got. And he was really good again. And then you're like, okay, where's he at?
Yeah.
Like, look, when you're a new coach and a coach who's never had the head coaching job before, you're going to rely on veterans. And that's what we saw from Doug. You give Doug a summer with Isaac Jones, who, again, he signed I think a 3-year deal. This season, I don't even think any of it. If there's a guarantee, it's not very much at all. You're still probably going to keep him around because a non-guaranteed contract for a second-year player is less than $2 million, and the Kings need a couple of those guys on the roster. So yeah. I would be shocked if Isaac Jones wasn't on this roster just because he showed potential.
Yeah, here's where you land with Isaac Jones. You bring in a different third big. And if Isaac Jones tears it up in camp and plays some rotational minutes and is awesome and winds up fitting into a bigger role than you thought, and now you have 4 good players for this spot, like you'll take that.
Yeah.
But you're not going to bank on it at this point.
No, totally. And I think the one thing that people should know is that the maturation of Trey Lyles as a Sacramento Kings player, he's an introvert. He reads books all the time. We talk about Trey Lyles book club and all that stuff. He's a really good dude, a really smart guy, but he also found his voice as a leader, which we saw play out on the court where him and DeMar DeRozan got into it.
Yeah.
Like Trey Lyles felt that he had enough sway in that locker room to holler at a 35-year-old future Hall of Famer. And that's something that if you're going to lose Trey Lyles and you're going to replace him with Isaac Jones, you have to understand that you're losing something that's more than just the numbers on the court. And you've got to find ways to replace that.
No doubt.
And so that's going to be another piece of this if Trey Lyles isn't back. But hey, look, if he's back, I don't think it's horrible. I just think that you can't have Sabonis and Valanciunas also on the roster, and you've got to lean out that spot a little bit.
I am with you. He can. I don't mind Trey Lyles suiting up for the Kings next year. It just can't be in the exact same role.
Yeah,
because I think then you run into it means you have a lot of the same problems with your roster that you had last year.
Of course.
So, anyways, that's our Kings roster check-in for the offseason. Speaking of check-ins, we're going to check in with Mark Jones, television voice of the Sacramento Kings, and also all over ESPN. He called games this postseason for Minnesota. He had Oklahoma City. Of course, that's a Western Conference Finals matchup. We'll talk about that, and we'll get some of his thoughts on what we're talking about.